unmuted.
Good afternoon and welcome to all joining us on the Sports Leaders webinar today about introducing leadership to the primary curriculum. I hope you're sitting comfortably, you can hear me okay, and you can see the presentation on the screen. My name's Wendy Crocker and I'm joined today by my colleague Kat Heathers. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Sports Leaders, we're an awarding organisation that develops qualifications and awards for young people. So our legacy comes from over 35 years of developing courses in sport and physical activity leadership. However, more recently, we've extended our portfolio of programmes so that they now cover a range of leadership and personal development courses for use in schools, colleges, and various community settings. Kat and I support the organisations that work with us. Now, before we launch into the presentation itself, which should take about half an hour, there are a few housekeeping issues to cover. So hopefully you can see on the screen, I've created an impression here just to show you some of the webinar functions that we'll be using. And you can access the control panel that you see by using the arrow at the top right-hand side of your screen. So if you click on the arrow, if that's all you can see at the moment, it should open that control panel. Now, when you do that, your microphone will be muted throughout the presentation. So we can't hear you at the moment, though hopefully you can hear me. And there will be an opportunity to ask questions at the end. So if I can ask you just to keep your questions to the end, then we can manage it most effectively. To ask those questions when the time comes, you've got two options. You can either raise the hand on the control panel. So if I just demonstrate here, there's a little hand, which you can just click on to raise your hand if you want to ask the questions and you've got a microphone on whatever device you're watching this on. Alternatively, there is, well, we've labeled it as questions here, but it's actually the chat function we're going to ask you to use if you want to type in your question. And at the end of the presentation, as I say, we will manage that and take questions. The other thing to be aware of is the resources, the presentation today, the slides that we're using are available as well in the handouts section. So we've pre-loaded them into there. So you don't need to take notes or copious notes or worry about, any of the screens that happen to have a lot of words on them. We'll just talk through them and you've got them available there. And also you will get them anyway through an email that we will send following the webinar. So hopefully that means everybody sort of knows their way how to get around this. The only thing I'm going to ask you to do right now is just so that particularly Kat can see that people can hear me and can see the screen, is can I ask you now all to go to the little raise hand and just click once on that button. Kat, are you seeing hands coming up? Can everybody hear okay?
Yeah, there's a couple that haven't, but the majority are good.
Okay, hopefully we're all there. Thank you. Okay, let's get started. So what are we going to cover over the course of the next half an hour or so? So we're going to look at the primary school leadership offer that Sports Leaders have and what is included in that. And the offer is our primary leaders license. So want to have a look at why it might be valuable to look at the programs and how you might use them in your school. Give you some insight into the two programs that fall within this license, and then explain next steps to access it and answer any questions, etc. And hopefully as we move through it, you'll see the value of what we're offering and how you integrate it into your primary school. So why might leadership be important for primary school pupils? Well, our Primary Leadership Award enables you as a school to improve your pupils' confidence and to build life skills that will assist them in their personal development and their engagement within the school community and beyond. So the sorts of skills I'm referring to include communication, planning, organisation, and teamwork. And although we offer the opportunity for you to develop their leadership skills through physical activity programme, the building blocks of leadership are transferable to many aspects of school and life in general. The Primary Leaders Licence is an easy to use and cost-effective way for you to develop these skills in your young people, your young leaders, and the licence costs just £99 for a primary school, and that gives you access for an academic year. If you're on this call and you're not a primary school, but you want to deliver the programmes that we're discussing, or you're here representing a group of primary schools, then just get in touch with us following today's webinar and we'll discuss your needs so that we can talk about how we put a package together for you. So what do you get within this primary leaders licence? Excuse me. There's two programmes. Playmaker. This is a nationally recognised leadership award for years 5 and 6, or if you're in Scotland, primary 6 and 7. It develops young leaders, helping to boost their skills and their confidence, and it increases their ability to engage in and support their school community, taking on additional responsibilities, and it develops them prior to making that transition to secondary school. The other programme that we offer within the licence is what we call Energy Club, and that's basically based around a set of resources with age-appropriate activities for children aged 4 to 7, and another set for age 7 to 11, so typically your Key Stage 1, Key Stage 2. The activities are designed to encourage the children to be more active, to help them to understand the importance of a healthy lifestyle, and to enable them to think about things they can do to achieve that. And I'm going to give you an overview, a quick overview of both of the programmes. Now, I'm going to start with Energy Club, but before we do so, before we get into the programme itself, let's take a moment just to explore why is it important? Why are children's activity levels and leading a healthy lifestyle so important? Is there a problem that we need to address? So those of you that might be familiar with the National Child Measurement Programme will know that this works with a range of schools each year to measure and weigh reception in Year 6 children to produce statistics that indicate what the health profile is of those children. So it doesn't happen in every school, and there may be regional differences and local differences. And if you're interested in finding out more about those, you can do so by just Googling the National Child Measurement Programme. But on average, what it's told us is that almost a quarter of reception children were overweight when they started school. And then in Year 6, it's over a third of children. So we can see that that indicates that the number of pupils with weight problems increases during their primary school years. Now, the good news is these statistics seem to have plateaued because they've remained much the same over the last couple of years. But the bad news is they haven't started to decrease yet. So what are the implications of these statistics? Well, one is on children's physical development. So some overweight children might find that their physical development and their physical literacy is hampered because of their weight issues. And obviously, the heavier they get, the more that can be impacted. So if they're carrying excess weight, it may impact on simple things like their mechanics of running. It might make them reluctant to engage and exert themselves in physical activities, might make them withdraw from activities. Another area that's impacted is academic performance, because we know there's growing body of evidence showing that physical activity and healthy lifestyle education benefits academic performance. And if you take that away and they're not doing those things, then that can have a negative impact. Social development can be impacted. For instance, if a child has confidence issues or low self-esteem due to their weight or their body image, this might impact on their interaction with others and their social development. There's also health costs, both to the individual, because if that child increases on the path that they're on, they may have an increased rate or an increased chance of those weight issues affecting their health as they become older. So increased rates of diet-related diabetes, for instance, and illness in adulthood can impact on their health and well-being, obviously, but also on things like their earnings potential. There's also a cost to the health economy through the NHS needing to treat increased numbers of health issues, and we all know at this time how important the whole NHS is to us. There's also, sadly, evidence that shows that quite clearly children's experience as children will influence their own parenting. And this generation, as they become parents, may pass on the bad habits that they've learnt to some of their children. So if children today follow an unhealthy diet, there's a good chance that they, as parents, might feed their children unhealthy habits and unhealthy lifestyle. And finally, what really sort of shocked me when I saw this was Designed to Move actually believe now that this generation might die 5 years younger than their parents. So if you've got a child of your own and you're hoping to, let's say, I'm not sure what the average age for an adult to live is. I think it's affected quite clearly by different regional areas. But let's say you hope to live to 75, your child may only live to 70, and that's quite shocking. Right, that said, anything we can do to break the cycle of bad eating habits, lack of activity, has got to be worthwhile. But I am not suggesting that this is purely a school issue. Clearly, it's a parental issue. It's a societal issue as well. And I know that schools do a lot already in terms of healthy messaging and getting kids active. But Energy Club, we're saying, is just another resource you can use to support those efforts. So what are we offering? What does Energy Club look like? Well, it's a fun physical activity club for children aged 4 to 7, and then a separate club or a separate set of resources for children aged 7 to 11. It's really about encouraging children to play and get involved in fun, energetic activities, and in the course of that, learning about healthy lifestyle choices as well. And it often engages those children that are less active and maybe less likely to go to your sports clubs because they don't see themselves as sporty. But when they realise that Energy Club is just about coming along and having some fun games, doing some fun activities, which happen to be active, then often it appeals to them more. It's also about helps to develop their movement skills. And we've got lots of anecdotal evidence about those health messages, children taking them home and trying to influence at home. So what does it look like? Well, it's based around, as we say, a set of cards. There's 30 activity cards for each of the age groups. So I'm just here showing you the first of the 30 cards for the for the age 4 to 7 group. So you'll see within the cards, there's the age listed on it, and the cards all have themes and provide a narrative. So the first 10 cards for this age group are all about helping your children to find out more about the Be Energetic crew. And the Be Energetic crew are this notional group of fun-loving, active, healthy children. So this lends itself to playing fun games like the Be Energetic crew play and learning about the things the Be Energetic crew do to be healthy. So the theme for the first card is all about the Be Energetic crew getting ready to start their day. And therefore, the card starts with a couple of warm-up days about getting dressed and the clothes race. So it's about getting dressed and getting ready to start the day. Each card will tell you what equipment you need. And as you'll see from this, a couple of hoops in this. So it's all very simple equipment that you're going to have in your PE store anyway. There's also progressions provided, and there's a narrative. And the narrative can be read to the children to introduce them and provide information surrounding the healthy message. And the healthy message on this card, in line with the activities, is the start of the day and the importance of a healthy breakfast. So if we just go and look at the reverse of the card, when you turn the card over, then you get the main game with a drawing as well, illustrating the game, a progression here, another activity that you can run as an activity or just ask the children the questions, and this draws out some of the elements of a healthy breakfast, and then a little health tip at the end, which is about reinforcing the importance of breakfast, etc. So these cards build up and tackle a number of different healthy issues, but that's just an example, and they all have warm-ups and games. If you choose to run the first 10 cards, say you did it as an after-school club, then at the end of the first 10 sessions, you can award the children with a certificate to say that they're now part of the Be Energetic crew. So there's little incentives along the way. There's also progress charts, additional certificates, top tips, festival cards. So there's lots within the package that you get as part of this license that you can use for Energy Club. Now, although I've mentioned it as an after-school club, the cards don't have to be used in sequence like that, and you could use it in many different ways in school and for different occasions. So I'm going to stop for a moment. I'm going to give you 30 seconds or so for you to think about how, if you had these cards, how you might use them in your school or setting. So I'm going to ask you to click on the chat function. And when you go to the chat function, just type in very quickly any ideas you've got about how you might use Energy Club cards in your school. Like I say, about 30 seconds to get a few ideas. And Kat, if you see any coming in, if you can just share them with everybody, that'd be really useful.
Okay, we've got breakfast club.
Yep.
On the playground.
Yeah, absolutely.
During lessons, physical literacy club, girls' active clubs, lunchtime leaders.
Brilliant. Loads of ideas there. Thank you.
Yeah, lots of extra.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, all those mentioned would be useful ways of doing it. Oh, for some reason it doesn't want me to move on a slide. Okay, so yeah, lots of good ideas there. Thank you for that. We had a few ideas earlier, many of which I think you've already picked up through extracurricular clubs, playground activities, etc. Warm-ups to PE to use in other lessons, etc. It supports some of your messaging in PHSE. You can use them as part of a festival or a sports event, or maybe just as a sort of a healthy challenge for schools. So you could, for instance, take that breakfast theme, have a assembly at the start of the week that says to the whole school, this week we're going to concentrate on everybody having healthy breakfasts, and chart in each class what people eat for their breakfast, and see at the end of the week which class is the best in terms of healthy breakfast. So there's lots of ways that you can use them. So yeah, that's great. Thank you for that. And by the way, all the resources within the license are provided digitally. So you get online access and you download and print what you want, and you can use them as you want. So that's a really useful resource that's there for you, that lots of schools use already and find very useful. So now I'm going to go back to the license and look at the other resource that's available there. So I'm going to set this in some context. So what we're talking about now is a primary leaders course. So this is a course designed for year 5 and 6, or in Scotland for primary 6 and 7. It takes about 6 hours to deliver. It's called the Playmaker Award, and it leads to the achievement of a nationally recognised certificate as a playmaker, which is basically a young sports leader, a primary school sports leader. It teaches leadership using the mnemonic PACE, and it develops a range of skills and confidence. Now, it's really easy to use. It doesn't require any staff training because all the resources that you need are within the package. So you can just pick it up and use it as you see fit for the group that you're working with. There's resources for staff, there's resources for the children. It even includes a home resource, which you could use if your children are absent from school, whether that's through self-isolation or anything else. And beyond the course, children can extend their leadership experience through a range of leadership challenges, which enables them to gain additional certificates. And again, those certificates are all downloadable from the resource. So the development and the subsequent use of the leadership skills supports a number of subjects. And once the pupils are trained and certificated as playmakers, they can assist in a range of situations. So you can use them to support your energy club activities. You can use them at school events, both sports and non-sports events. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of the course, and then we'll have a look at some of the resources. So it takes about 6 hours to deliver the course, and this can be divided up into bite-sized chunks or delivered as a sort of 2 half days, however you want to do it. But typically it will consist of 6 sessions, and those sessions will cover an introduction to leadership, so your pupils understanding what a leader is and what sorts of skills and behaviours they need to have. Then sessions 2 to 5 cover the elements of PACE, which we'll look at in a bit more detail shortly. And then the final session is a chance to put their learning into practice. So, as I mentioned, all the resources required are provided to you via an online portal. You just access them and download or print off what you want to use. You'll actually have more resources than you need to complete the course, as we've provided several suggested activities for different elements, and you just choose those that you think will work best for you and your pupils. This is an example of a worksheet you could give the children as part of that introduction to leadership when they're thinking about what's a leader, what's a good leader, what is leadership. So We'll give you suggested activities through the resources that you can get the children thinking about the skills and behaviours of a good leader and why they're important. And then they could list these on the worksheet. Or you might choose to do it differently. You might say, well, I'll create a list on a flip chart that we'll keep up in the class. And we'll do that during one of these activities. It's up to you to choose how you want to do it, what you want to use. So it's very flexible. But as an example, for instance, on here, if the children were filling it in, you might expect them to be picking up on a good leader should have good communication skills. So they might put a good leader should speak clearly so that people understand the instructions they're giving for a game, and building on some of that. Okay, let's take a moment then to work our way through understanding a little bit more about PACE. So the P is all about participants and participation, about getting fair and equal teams, about getting everyone involved. And you'll be provided with a set of activities that you can use to really bring this learning to the children. So as an example, one I particularly like is where you set up a rounders activity for the children and get them to start to play in a simple rounders game, and then stop it after 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and ask the children, how participative do you think that is? Now, once they understand what you mean by the term participative, some of the children will be saying, if they got to bat and run around the stumps, for instance, oh yeah, really participative. Whereas you're bound to get someone who was on the end of that queue waiting to bat and never got to hold the bat even, but they won't think it was very participative. Or somebody who was fielding in the outfield didn't get very involved. So it starts to generate this conversation and this understanding about what it means to get everybody involved. And then it asks you to challenge the children to think, how could they adapt that game to make it more participative? And there's lots of ideas on the activity card to support you. So you don't need to be imaginative or creative in thinking, oh, well, how do we adapt it? There's lots of ideas there that you can use as prompts. So it's a really good way of drawing out the learning. A is about the area, so that focuses clearly on the area that you're playing in. So that will get them thinking about the size of an area, the shape of an area for a game, hazards around that area. So, you know, if you're running relay races, you don't want the end to be within a few feet of a very solid stone wall because somebody will run into it. So all those sorts of issues. C is clearly about communication and the importance of verbal communication and non-verbal communication so that they are supporting one with the other. And then E relates to the whole issue around equipment and the importance of thinking about the difference that they can have or the impact they'll have on an activity by changing the equipment. So if we go back to the rounders scenario, whilst year 6 might be able to use a rounders bat to hit a tennis ball, quite clearly reception are not going to be able to. So your learners will start to think about, okay, if I was to do something with a group of very young children, I need to think about the equipment I use, and maybe I use a bigger ball, I use a racket, I roll the ball towards them. So it's about them learning all these things so that they can put them into practice then as they move forward. Once they've learned about PACE, as we said earlier, the last session is about putting it into practice. And this is where you give them a chance under your supervision to get involved in helping to lead some activities, either with the rest of the group that they're doing their Playmaker course with, or maybe with younger children, at an event, at a PE session, as part of a lunchtime activity in the playground, perhaps using some Energy Club cards. So there's lots of opportunities for them to do that. And once they've done that, then they've completed the course and you can present them with the Playmaker certificate. You'll get, as part of the license, you'll get a certificate template for the award, which will include your school name and the academic year they've achieved the award. So it's all there, it's all within the package. Then moving on beyond the course, we talked about the leadership challenges, and I'd really encourage you to use these because these help your children to consolidate their learning. They'll get to gain extra certificates beyond the Playmaker. They'll get gold, silver and bronze certificates. It'll give you a team of able helpers in the school community for events and activities. It gives them responsibilities and helps them to flourish. And this part of the resource is for the tutor to provide ideas about the ways in which, or the types of leadership challenges that can be set. So it's whether it's leading within physical activity, which is those obvious things like sports sessions, out of school sports clubs, playground activities, whether it's leading and linking into other things like sports festivals or tournaments or a sports day, or other events in school. Leading for life is about applying the skills they've learnt in a different context. So taking some of those skills they've learnt, but maybe applying that in a different way by being part of a buddying and mentoring, or part of the school council, or perhaps promoting school events or reporting on school events. And then the tutor's choice is really up to you. So you could choose some things that you want them to do to develop their leadership skills. So it might be you pick a small group of your playmakers to put together and deliver a school assembly on a health-related topic, or you get a group to create a mini exercise video that they could then distribute to the other classes in school to use as a warm-up to the day. So that's the way in which it works. I'm going to give you a very quick romp through the resources themselves, or a sample of the resources, just so you can see what they look like. So this is one of the tutor resources. This gives an outline of how you could run the course if you were to do it as a one-day delivery, but obviously you can chunk that up into perhaps what's more common, maybe 6 one-hour sessions, and deliver them over a term. Excuse me. We also have learner cards. Now, whilst these are written from the perspective of giving them to the children, personally I wouldn't. When I deliver, I would tend not to, but you can choose to do that. So it talks about what the children will do in the session, what you're going to discuss, and how they will use those points that they've learnt. So, and it also gives you which activities you can use to go through these sections. And then you'll have an activity card that relates to these. So the activity card 12 relates to alien invasion, and you will have on that activity card everything you need to get them doing that activity. So it's up to you how you do this. I sometimes find these as quite useful for a session plan for me, rather than sharing them with the children themselves. I mentioned activity cards. This isn't the alien invasion one. This activity card is used when you're dealing with the E for equipment, and is all about the difference with if you use different shapes, sizes and numbers of balls. But this is typical of an activity card. So it describes the activity you're going to do with the children, and this is for you as the tutor. It raises the teaching points that you're wanting to draw out, and it gives you some suggested questions about how you might do that after the activity. And the activities are great fun. Then we've got learner worksheets. Again, it's up to you to decide whether you want pupils to fill in the learner worksheets or not. This is a practical course, and we would encourage you to deliver it as a practical course, but you might find some of the learner worksheets are useful reinforcement of the teaching points. So you may choose to use some and not others, and that's entirely up to you. This particular example is a very useful one, because when they come to put PACE into practice, they will need to think about planning whatever session they're involved in, having a bit of leadership in. So they need to think about who am I working with? What age are they? How many have I got? Because I may need to sort them into teams for the activity. What equipment might I need? And what's the activity going to be? So this is all about them organising and preparing for the session. And then there's a second worksheet that enables them to evaluate how well they dealt with that session and what they might do differently in future. And this even helps to prompt them with some of the things that they might want to look at about what did they do well? Did they use the area well? Did they motivate the other people involved? How good were they at giving instructions? And if they felt they weren't so good at that, what can they do to change it for next time to make their session even better? There's also a learner journal, which is a short printable booklet which you can download from the resource if you want to offer this to the children to chart their journey through the course. The key thing to remember with the resources is there'll be more activities and sheets in the pack than you actually need. It's up to you to choose what you want to deliver it in the way that you choose to. And the other resource that you get within Playmaker is, as I say, the home activity pack. Now, this is a new resource we added to the license. We've designed it specifically as a response to COVID-19 to support schools if you find yourself with children at home due to lockdown, self-isolation. But again, its use is flexible. The children don't have to be working remotely for you to use it. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. You could just offer it as an additional tool to develop their skills or just for fun. And each section provides them with an opportunity to undertake an activity they can do at home to increase their understanding of PACE And at the end, they can reflect on what they've learnt. And there's also a puzzle at the end, just for a little bit of fun. So that's a very quick look through some of the resources. I guess the next thing is what happens now. So if you want to go ahead and run the Playmaker Award and you'd like to have the Energy Club resources, then the first thing you need to do is to purchase your primary leader's license. And the way that you do that is we will send you an email following this presentation. You fill in, on the email there'll be a link to the web form. You fill that in, we will process it and your school will be invoiced for £99. And we will send you an email detailing how you access the resources via our online portal, which we call LEAP. Once you get the resources, you can have a good look through them and decide how you're going to use the Energy Club cards and then how you're going to deliver Playmaker. And you get started, complete PACE, put PACE into practice, certificate your learners, and offer them some leadership challenges to extend them further. And you could do this with a small group, a large group, year 5, year 6, do year 6 first, then go back to year 5. You've got use of that license for the whole of the academic year and then can renew the following year. Now you will see when you get into the web form that there is, as I said, it's £99 for the license, but it will offer you as well on the web form some optional extras that you can buy. Now, I want to stress these are optional extras and they are only providing resources that you will get anyway within the digital package. The only reason we offer these in this way is sometimes people say, we love the Energy Club cards, we just don't want to have to print them off and laminate them ourselves. Can you provide a ready printed format? So we've got them as a sort of a wipe clean, quite robust card, and you can buy a pack of those if you want for £100 for all 30 of each age group. Again, we provide you with a template for the certificates, so you don't need to purchase them, and the same with the leadership journals, you can just print them off. But if you want us to give you ready printed versions, then you just need to order them at the same time. Okay, pretty much enough from me, other than just to summarise. So as I say, the licence provides 2 programmes, Playmaker Award to develop young leaders within your school, and all the benefits that brings to both the school and to these young people through increasing their confidence and skills prior to them embarking on their secondary education. And then the Energy Club, which will encourage children of all ages in the school to be more active and follow healthy lifestyles. And hopefully, if you use both within the licence, and to be quite frank, the price of the licence, the value, even if you only chose to use either Playmaker or Energy Club, would be fine, but you get both. So if you can use both, please do. And both will contribute to getting your children moving and improving their health and their well-being. So before I open to questions, just to let you know, after you leave the webinar, you will receive a survey. Do please complete it so we can have your feedback. We really value that. You'll also see within the survey there's a question about a new product that we are looking at perhaps launching next year, which is about getting year 6 children secondary ready. So we may be looking for primary schools in the summer to pilot that. So if you're interested in that, you can indicate in the survey for that. So you'll get the survey. You will also get, after today, an email which provides slides, hopefully a link to this recorded webinar if the recording's all gone as we hope, and also details about the web form, how you access the web form so you can order your license. If you've got further questions, when you get that email, there's also a link to how you find your regional equivalent of myself or Kat, who can help you if you have further questions after today. But apart from that, all that remains is for me to say thank you for listening and open the floor for questions. So if you have a question, please either type it into the chat facility in the control panel, or if you want to stick your hand up, then Kat is on hand to try and work her way around and unmute people if you want to actually use your microphone to ask your question. So over to you.
Okay, Wendy, we have had one question come through whilst you were presenting, and it's about how the playmaker can be more COVID friendly in terms of peers being able to deliver to other year groups. Obviously, at the moment, the situation is very difficult. We would certainly recommend that the learners that you put through this course in year 5 and year 6 should deliver to their peers as they are, and then fingers crossed around about summertime might give them then the opportunity to start utilising those skills they've developed to younger year groups in the primary school or junior school. Other than that, another option could be, and depending how tech savvy and how confident your learners are, you could get them to video a session that they lead and use that video to then be shown in other classes, in other year groups as part of a PE lesson, maybe part of lunchtime, or some of the other options or examples that you've given. And that could be a way of them just transferring some of that into more of a virtual digital environment, which we're all having to sort of adapt to at the moment. So yeah, at the moment, we would definitely recommend peer on peer within their groups, practice, delivery, iron everything out, and hopefully if we sort of get on top of this COVID situation around that summertime, they might be able to then go down and deliver that to other year groups. We've got a question here about the annual licence. It says, do we lose access after the year? Yes, the annual licence is just for the academic year, and then you will be asked to renew for the following academic year. If you decide not to renew, there's a process to go through, but the licence is set as an annual package.
And we have mentioned in the follow-up email as well what you need to do if you decide that you don't want to renew. So it's very easy to opt out. Anything else, Kat?
No, I haven't got any other questions coming through at the moment.
Okay, and nobody's raised a hand. Nobody wants to speak on here. Okay, well, that's fine. We'll stay on for a few more minutes. So if anyone has got an additional question they want to cover, we'll hang around for 5 minutes or so. So feel free to do so. Otherwise, I would just say thank you for your time today. I hope you found it useful. Have a good evening, and we hope there'll be a few more playmakers out there as a consequence of your involvement today. So thank you very much.